for viewing us on YouTube. John Hall here at Blues Creek Guitars, and today we got a guest cameraman, Dean Bears, in here, so he's going to make me look really good today. What we want to discuss today is bracing. Now, this is kind of an advanced type of bracing technique that I started to use because I really do like to have consistency in my bracing. So my friend Kevin Waldron worked with me and we created this little jig, and as you can see, I have my bracing plot put in this piece of Lexan, and it has what I call a halo. So all of the position of the bracing that I am going to put into the kerfing will be marked on the halo. Now, some of it will not be marked, but the ones that are important for me are my X bracing. As you can see, they'll fit right in here. And this I had already cut the size. This is actually a Martin piece for a triple O, so it is set to size, but I can mark it in here. Now, what is the benefit to this? The big benefit is consistency. But when I'm actually going to go later to cut the kerfs for the bracing, I can be assured where this will fit onto the guitar, and I can put my kerfing in, and that will set me up to it. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this part of the jig, and we're going to mark out my bracing plots. Now this bracing plot comes from Waldron Instruments, like I said, but it's also drawn off of the 1944 Triple O. And he does a real nice job with his templates. When you look at it, it actually kind of looks like a blueprint. Now the one area that I kind of defer from Martin is I do not put anywhere near the size of popsicle braces they will give you with the kit. You don't really need that much. That's there to carry the stress load from the fingerboard extension, so I'm going to shorten that up on my own personal build. For this video, we'll use it as it is, but you can use about half of this. Okay, so as you see, I have my marks here. This bridge plate will get changed because I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. But I have the important lines on here, and now, also, I want to show you how to use fish glue rather than Titebond. I'm a convert to the protein glues. I definitely think that hot hide glue and fish glue are a little superior to Titebond. That doesn't mean that Titebond's terrible. Titebond historically does have some creep issues. The drawback to Titebond is the repairability issue. You have to make sure you get the old glue out in order for the new glue to stick, where hot hide glue and fish glue are reamalgamable. That's a mouthful of words, but that means is the glue will stick to itself. It will actually redissolve, reactivate, and come back. So, I have my bracing plotted onto my top. Now, what I will do is I'm going to put this into the dish. There are a few braces that I like to do flat. Now, since this is a Martin set of bracing, they do have a slight radius on their transverse braces, you can see. I like to do mine personally flat, but I will use this. I will put the bridge plate in tomorrow. You can put that in curved, but I do like to put that in flat. And I will clamp that in with a C-clamp. So it's not a big deal. Back that out. We'll put it in today. Anyway, when I put the bridge plate in, you're going to see me put a lot of go bars in there. So if you're going to put it in now, doesn't matter. You can put it in flat. You can put it in later. And with that, we're going to start glue. We're going to show you how to use the go bar deck. We're going to be using fish glue. I like fish glue so much I actually became a dealer in selling this stuff. Again, you can find these products on Blues Creek Guitars, but this is not so much about a commercial as it is to show you some advanced techniques. With fish glue, these are what I like to use. I use a straw, cut it at about a 45-degree angle. I have my jig. I lay this in here. Now I can put my halo on top. You can see I have a center line. Now, so that I get my lineup correct, I have my pencil marks. Center lines connected, pencil lines are marked, and so that this doesn't move, I'll put 2 pieces of tape, one right down here, right like this, because that's going to be out of the road, and up here, like this. Now, I'm secure. My top and my halo jig are now one. Now, I have a little pail of warm water right here, and I have some paper towels. The beauty of fish glue is that it is so readily cleaned up. It's not difficult to clean up at all. So, I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. I'm also going to do what I call bridging. It's very difficult when you're putting your go-bar decks on something round. So I have pieces of wood, and I have them so I can span, and it's a lot easier to put a stick on something that is flat than something that is round. So, put a little bit of glue on here, and again, the glue application's very similar to doing Titebond. You want to get a nice smooth cover. I take a little piece of wood and kind of like trowel it out so I get a nice color. And people, you may not know this, but you've used fish glue most of your life every time that you lift a stamp. The stuff is amazingly strong. So I can put that in here. It does tack pretty readily. And each go bar that I use has approximately 8 to 10 pounds of force. This is reinforced fiberglass, and I'll put this on a little larger one now. And the reason why I like to do this, I want to make sure I have secure clamping, and in order to avoid the dreaded go-bar shrapnel, try to keep this point and your connecting point as vertical as possible. One of my customers has actually taken a piece of carpeting and put carpeting on the top, so that comes in handy if you want to scoot a clamp like at the fingerboard and the finger braces. So you want to make sure that that's scooted into the X brace, and you can avoid the dreaded dive for your life. Now I have that brace in. Next one will be this fella. And you can see I put about a pencil thickness bead on here. You have probably about 50-60 seconds worth of time. So unlike hot hide glue, where you're running and feel like you're being pressured, you have a little bit of time. You could line up these marks to here. That way, when you go to put the kerfing in, you can use this jig as the points of where you want to make the marks in the kerfing. I'm not a fan of cutting through the sides. I don't like that method. I feel that it makes for a stress riser. Now this little guy back here is going to span. And also, if you take this and scoot it to the inside, like that, as you walk by, you don't have to worry about hitting one and making one fly out. Now I can check. I'm checking now that I have a nice tight joint. There is just ever so slight amount of squeeze out. Now I can take my little expensive glue de Gour, and I can put that right into the corner and just stab it. And that cleans out a lot of the stuff. Tomorrow morning, when I come down here, I can take a toothbrush and clean up the rest. That's another nice thing about this glue. It is so easy to clean up. So we have 2 braces in. Almost done. And a number of people have actually put these braces together, and I do this whenever I do a bracing jig. Just because they have a notch, don't assume that how you put that in is going to be the right way. You can see that doesn't work. So if your bracing doesn't line up to your markings from a kit from us, just take this guy, pick it up, turn it around, put it back in, and then now she'll line up. So don't feel that you'd be the first person that ever did that. So that is the first brace that has to go in. Now what I will do, again, I run like 2 beads down through there. I just want nice coverage. I'll take my wooden fingertip here. And one thing I learned from a friend of mine, Wayne Henderson, if you do have to use your finger to wipe off glue, use that one. And it does work. Now what I do, I'm squishing this down, holding it in there. Right here in the center, I'm going to put that right there. Now that's going to hold for a couple of seconds. This glue does tack in a hurry. And the one beauty about this wood and hot hide glue in the morning, if you find that you have a gap that for whatever reason you didn't get a good glue joint, you can come back in with hot water, or if you have a steam generator, steam it. It just reactivates the glue. Now when I go to put this one in, because I got to go in the center, I'm going to put my glue on here for my joint. Just a little bit. And if you take notice, I use my finger kind of like as a fence, so I can put the point of where I want the glue. Then take my little, and you can see I have a nice bead of glue on there. Can you see the reflection of it? And now I'll take this out, put this in. So you can see the benefit of that. Now I'm just going to catch my ends real quick. And I am gluing this in a 28-foot dish. I have a nice little bit of glue coming out of it. Take my little scraper. The other nice thing about this glue, you don't have to worry about grabbing it all. It tends to suck itself back into the joint. So if you have a little bit of a bead there, as this dries out, it will shrink. And I know if it's anything like hot hide glue, it's a 50% mix of the pellet to the water, so you did have quite a bit of water in there. So now I'm going to do my bridging technique. Now when I do a bridge, I'll take an unprotected end, because that will bite into the piece of wood. It's not going to go flying. And tomorrow I'll put my reinforcement patch on top of here. I also want to make sure that I have good top to brace content. If I don't get that mate right, my 2 pieces of wood on the joint, if your joint isn't cut perfectly perpendicular, it'll be at a bit of an angle, which will make a rise look on your brace. So you want to make sure you have everything fitting nice. As of right now, that is very secure. It's actually pretty decent. Now we're going to put our finger bracing in. Now the finger bracing, I'm putting my tone bars in. The tone bars, I have one a little shorter than the other. Shorter one is going to go below, longer one's up here. I do not put the end scallop of my tone bar into the kerfing. I'll actually stop it right on the top, and I have this nice and thin so there's movement there. If you have a step of any size here, this will create a stress riser, and over time the brace is going to start getting loose. Next thing you know, you're popping the brace. So make sure you want to have this paper thin down on the edge. And again, I just run it about a pencil thickness, a little dab of glue. Wherever you have wood touching wood, be sure you have it glued. Now I'm just holding that against that way. And I'm going to scoot them in. And for anybody who's used the Go Bar deck, you haven't lived till you have 100 angry sticks attacking you. Put my little spanner in here. Okay, so now we have most of the major bracing done. Now I'm going to show you how to put a bridge plate in. When you put a bridge plate in, okay, we know it fits in there nice and snug. We don't need all this much bridge plate. So I'm actually going to trim a little bit off of this. I'm going to take off about that much. And I'm going to take off about this much. Originally they were about 1 3/8. So you don't need a heck of a lot. I just don't want all the bridge plate. I'll also bevel these edges. Now, you have to be careful when you're putting the bridge plate in. We are infusing a certain amount of water into this thin piece of wood, and we're putting it onto a thin piece of wood. So I learned you learn a lot more from a failure than you do a success. So I beveled my corners so I don't have that stress riser. When I put this in here, I am going to use a nice quantity of Go Bar rods. And when I say a nice quantity, I mean probably 6 or 8. And I'm going to put them in such a way so I can make sure I don't get cupping of the plate. I'm just going to load this up. And you also want to make sure that it doesn't kick on you. So keep an eye on this thing, trying to keep your weight as vertical to it so that it doesn't scoot it off the bracing. The location of that bridge plate is, after all, somewhat critical. If you want to make a Lexan caul to put on top of that, remember, it's going to have to flex. So that is one reason that I used to put these on outside flat, but since I've been just piling the living snot out of Go Bars, it works pretty well. And I'm just getting the worst of the glue squeeze out. Tomorrow I can hit this with some warm water and a toothbrush and I can get that nice and clean. So I got 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, I have about 10 clamps on there. which would equate to about 100 pounds of force. So it's not going anywhere. If you make a go-bar deck yourself, and that's absolutely fine, if you nail it, my very first one I did that. I nailed it one day. I was about this point. Next thing you know, it went flying. So make sure that you have it in such a way so that the load won't tear it apart. It's you learn more from a failure than you do a success. Now I got to put my finger bracing in. Now when I do my finger bracing, I like to kind of pre-shape my finger bracing before I put it in. A little bit differently than some people. And I'm not a big fan of putting carving my chisel than some people. I'm not a big fan of putting because I've had some already split, so I carving my chisel in carving now so that if I do damage one, I don't have to pop it off. Because I've had some already split, so I do like to get them roughed in now so that if I do damage one, I don't have to pop it off. I know where the outside of my guitar is going to be, go into the curve, so I can make a mark. All I need is a spot, and since this will not go into the kerfing, all I need is a spot. Now I'm just going to nip them off, and then I'll shape them on the sander, and I'll show you how I do that. Is I'm going to basically triangulate this, and then I will bring the back on here. So rather than showing you all four bracing, I'll just do one. And having done this a number of times, I've got pretty good at it. My friend will make a still picture of this. You're going to be able to see that I purposely did make the angle off, but I want to show you a very simple way of making the angles very, very precise and very repeatable. Alright, all you need to do this is a sanding block. You can take a pencil, you can take anything, but if you take your pencil, hold it against the brace, and you can see that marks that line, and that's very precise to the line I need. So now I can take my sanding block, hold it right to the edge of my bench, put my line right over the edge of my bench, take my sanding block, and there we are. That should fit there absolutely perfectly. And it do. So I'll do this one. You can actually get pretty good at this. The more you do it, the more. And by having it on the edge, that makes that a nice square butt. So when I put these into the bracing, I have a good glue surface. And you can see how quick you can do this. It's not... No, I didn't mark them. I've done so many of them. I know where they need to go. Boom. Now, I'm going to get two little sticks here. And what I'll do, this will go back here at the edge, and I'm going to kind of offset this a little bit so it does kind of push my brace into the X joint. I also want you to understand, you don't want to go much under 1/4 of an inch across the width of your brace. If you make that too thin, you need the glue surface area. And while I do like to try to be neat, that is the beauty of this glue. Tomorrow morning, I can come down here with hot water and a toothbrush, and we'll be fine. Put that on there. Put that one on the top. Now the sound support braces, the itty bitty ones that'll go in there, I'll probably do them tomorrow, and that's real simple with a spring clamp. You can put them in here if you want to. Some people do use them, some people don't. If think you ought to show them how to do that yet, or if you want to show them how to do it, you can edit the tape.
Yeah, sure.
Alright. And I don't have a pencil mark on this side, so I gotta eyeball it. Close enough. Okay. My video guy said let's put them in, so we will put them in. And these are, I see some people put very, very heavy bracing in around the sound hole. I don't think it's necessary. All that this is there for is to help avoid cracks in the top. Now I can move this out of the road a little bit. And what I do on one side should fit on the other, since this is basically a very symmetrical piece. So I can put them in here. That's close enough. Eyeball that across. And then we don't charge for the dust. Poison. And that one's PDG. Alright, that's two of them. Yahoo! That's it. Now to glue these in. Ooh, it's a little rough edge here. Now let's put the left edge up. Now some glue, if you wait for it to, for lack of a better term, boogerize, you can actually pull it out in a nice strip. Good. I'm making sure that I have a nice, firm, I want my braces to be touching and glued. I don't want any wood to wood section not glued. Now fish glue, while it's an excellent glue, does require an ample amount of clamping time. I usually let it sit overnight. Norland Products recommends a 12-hour clamp time. I would say probably 8 hours would probably be okay. There's a piece of wood I was looking for. Now you can see I can span and use one stick to do two pieces. Alright? And that is how I use the Go Bar deck to brace up my tops and backs. I also have a vacuum clamp. That works very well. But this is something that you can make, and you can see with this halo pattern you can be very precise in the way that the bracings go in, and I can assure you that when I go to put this top on my guitar rim, using this to know where everything goes sure does save a lot of time and accuracy for curving for the placement. So I hope that you enjoyed this little video, and from my shop to yours, thanks Glenn, thanks team, and we'll see you next time. So with that being said, bing. Instead of being nice and perpendicular, and that I'll do right here on my handy dandy. Let's see how far we can toss a camera.
Blooper!